Never quit on a bad day. On a personal level, it just meant, never quit showing up as who I am, even when I'm going through extremely challenging times.
I am so glad that you chose this episode to join me for, because you're going to hear from an amazing human being, the incredible Phebe Trotman. From professional soccer player to entrepreneur to author of the Never Quit on a Bad Day book series, this amazing human being is passionate about helping you and everyone she comes into contact with to step into the best version of themselves given the circumstances that they face today. We know that life takes lots of turns along the way, and whatever that goal is that's on your heart that you want to achieve, it's going to come with some resistance and some challenge. Phebe gives some incredible life stories that are both vulnerable and inspirational, as well as some strategies to show up even when the going gets tough. From those days where you just don't want to get out of bed, through to those days where things come at you in business and you feel super stuck, to even feeling emotionally stressed and needing to put a smile on your face when you truly don't feel like it. Phebe is amazing. I know that she's going to leave you today, like she did for me, feeling inspired and ready to tackle the world no matter what. So grab your pen and paper, because she drops some amazing gold nuggets along the way. And remember this, off the back of any episode or any training that you do with me, implement something today, because implementation is what gets us the growth. She gives some great strategies that you can use immediately. And I definitely am going to do exactly that off the back of my conversation with her, as I hope you do too. So sit back, enjoy, relax, and of course, don't forget, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our awesome upcoming episodes. And if you love this episode, please share it with a friend and help spread the message. Thanks again for tuning in, and enjoy the episode. Well, hey there, and welcome back into the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I'm your host, Sam Hind. I'm so excited to have you with us today, and I'm super excited to have the amazing Phebe Trotman, aspiring queen of the world, with us today. So great to have you.
Thank you so much, Sam. I've been really excited for this conversation. So I just appreciate you, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I think we're going to absolutely be having some really valuable conversations today. I can already tell this is going to be a lot of fun, but I know that you've got so much value to add, and I can't wait to talk a little bit about what you do in your book. But before we get into all of that stuff, I say book. There are books. You've got multiple books. You have a whole series, right?
Yes, the Never Quit on a Bad Day book series. So it's been a fun journey, and I'm looking forward to continuing it on.
Oh, so good. All right. Well, before we get into all of that, I do want to ask you, if we were to find you completely unplugged, switched off for the day, not writing books, not at work, not speaking, not coaching, not doing all of those amazing things that you do, what would we find you doing?
It would be a day full of adventure. So I would still stick to sort of a morning routine loosely. So there'd be a couple things I would start my day with. Like I always start it with a moment of prayer, gratitude. I'd have a big glass of water and then make my coffee. I'd head to boot camp, because those are like few things that I like to have in my day, regardless of if it's an unplugged day or a busy work day, if you will. And then from there, it would just be with my friends and family, my partner. Most likely we'd go for a walk. We might be playing tennis. I love finding like random adventures in BC. I live in Vancouver. And so there's always like new cafes that open up or restaurants. So I love to find just kind of random things and make the most of the time. For me, it's really about the time with my loved ones, and whatever we're going to do, it'll be an adventure and we'll have a blast doing it.
I love it. So you seem like someone who's been on a lot of adventures to me. What would be your craziest adventure you've been on?
Craziest adventure? I'm going to say, well, the most memorable one when you say that pops up is when I went to Kenya. I went to Kenya on a mission trip in 2011, and it absolutely changed my life in so many ways. It was beautiful. The people were so wonderful. And that's when I realized like how just being grateful for what you have, how much everything stems from that, right? Having a strong foundation of gratitude. And so that's what pops out when you say adventure, because it changed so much in my life.
Isn't it funny? On that, Greg and I went away on a mission trip we actually chose to do that for our honeymoon. We went to
Yeah.
Burundi and we went to Kenya while we were there as well. And the really interesting thing was we went thinking that we were going for them to help them, but they had a far greater impact on us, I think, than what we ever could have on them while we were there. And what an incredible group of people, but it's a very different way of living, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And, I just felt called to go. And it was interesting. The
Mm,
reason it seems like an adventure is because I didn't know the people I was going with. Like, I met them
yes.
literally the first day we were in this planning stage. And I was like, okay, well, we're doing this. And it just worked out. Like, the people that were meant to be there going to Kenya, we were such a great group. And as you said,
Yeah.
like, you go there thinking you're going to help, and you do in a lot of ways as well, but you end up
Yeah.
coming back with so much more. And so,
Yeah.
I just know that trip changed me for the better
Yeah.
in so many
Hmm.
ways. And I just encourage people listening, watching, like, if you have an opportunity to go to a country and just serve and be there,
Yeah.
what you'll take away will transform you.
Yeah, super powerful. I highly agree. So let's talk a little bit about Never Quit on a Bad Day. You've written not just one, but a book series, and this is a continuing project and journey for you. But what does Never Quit on a Bad Day mean to you, and where did that phrase come from?
Yeah, I'm going to start with where the phrase came from, if you will. And that, I heard that phrase many years ago. And one of the interesting things about never quit on a bad day is, as I look back over life, it's taken on different meanings depending on the season in life that I'm in, right? So never
Mm.
quit on a bad day as an athlete, it means, you might have got cut from a team, or you're sitting on the bench, you're not having the best game. It's never quitting on continuing that sport that you love, or whatever that looks like. In terms of the business, there's many times where, as an entrepreneur, I was frustrated and I wanted to, pack it in, because it wasn't moving the way I wanted to, as quickly as
Yeah.
I wanted to, or I was disappointed because something else happened, or this person said they were going to build a big business and they didn't. And it was continuing to keep showing up in that way. And now, never quit on a bad day in the last season on a personal level, it just meant, never quit showing up as who I am, even when I'm
Mm.
going through extremely challenging times, like
Yep.
continuing to show up as Phebe Trotman, who is someone who likes to encourage other people and likes to inspire other people to keep going, even though I was going through, and still am, a very, challenging season. I don't know if we talked a little bit about this before, but my mom passed from dementia 6 months ago. And it's been, I was her primary caregiver, in the
Mm.
last 2 years were so challenging. And I had to repeat to myself so many times, like, Phoebe, never quit, never quit. And what I mean by that, in that season, it was like, never quit being, her daughter, and never quit finding moments to be grateful for, even in the times where it was really hard. And so, just,
Yeah.
I feel like never quit on a bad day, it can mean so much to different people, again, depending on what season. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I've just held on to so tightly. And it's interesting when I look back at starting this book series, not realizing, like, it's almost like how we just talked about when we went on mission trips. I started this book series to encourage and inspire other people.
Yeah.
And really, it has helped me in so many ways that it's been life-changing, really.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? You start a journey with one intention and it kind of unfolds a whole new path ahead of you. Um, I love that it's got so many different meanings, and I want to really dive into a couple of those. So,
Yeah.
when it comes to, the first thing, of course, when we started chatting initially in our pre-podcast chat was, of course, never quit on a bad day. When things go wrong, when it all feels like it's crumbling, don't quit, because business doesn't go like this, it goes like this, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about business for a sec, because I think that's the
Yeah.
context a lot of people are thinking in, but I do definitely want to talk about the showing up in a different context as well in just a moment. So let's talk about business. If somebody right now who's listening to this is like, you know what, I have those days where I feel like giving up is just the easiest option, and I'm just not sure if I should still be doing this, or do I keep pushing? What would you say to those people? And I guess the flip side to that is there a time when it is the right time to quit?
Absolutely. And it's funny because when I decided to title this book series Never Quit on a Bad Day, I could hear people being like, well, what do you mean? Like, do I never quit something? And so I actually have a chapter in the end of the book that I talk
Yeah.
about like when to quit. And so we can kind of unpack that a little bit as well too.
Yeah.
For those people listening in and you're, I think one of the biggest things with understanding never quit on a bad day is oftentimes when we quit because we are in sort of that negative emotional place,
Yeah.
right? We're frustrated, we're angry. It's not working out the way we wanted to. It's not building as fast as we wanted it to. It's not growing. Someone quit on our team, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the things behind never quit on a bad day is that's not the time necessarily to quit. So if you're having those emotions, which are completely natural, I've been there, I've built a business, I understand those frustrating moments. I always encourage people to go back and think about, why did you say yes in the beginning?
Yeah.
Why did you first get started in your, whatever your business is that you're doing? Like, why did you say yes? Why did you pull out your credit card? Why did you join the team? Why did you say yes to starting on this path? And when we can take a moment and really revisit that of why we're doing that, that often helps us kind of refocus and push through those emotions to kind of get to the other side. Because often when we can figure out, and if you haven't done that exercise, I always encourage everyone, you have to have that strong why, like that why that's going to propel you. Because as you said, Sam, like being an entrepreneur, it's a roller coaster. Building a business, it is a roller coaster. And so you have to know, and that's the other part, know going into it, there are going to be those tough times when you want to quit, and that's okay. The key is not to stay in that I want to quit moment for too long. And how quickly can you bounce from I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I want to quit to, okay, why did I start this in the first place?
Yeah.
Revisit it, get back into activity. And then we can unpack like when it is time to quit, what are some of the things to think about. But I just would encourage someone, if you're in that place of frustration, how can you just keep going a little longer, revisit your why, the goals that you set out to accomplish, and then take another step forward.
Yeah. And Phoebe, I mean, obviously you've been through this before multiple times. What has pulled you back when you've been in those moments? You've been like, I am ready to throw it all in. Like, I have had it. What have been the things for you? Is it always the why I started? Were there some other things in there as well? What for you were the pivotal things that helped you just kind of flick from that really negative emotional mindset into where you needed to be to keep going and stepping?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember this one time I had just finished a leadership trip. So I was down in Florida and we just came off an incredible trip. And yet I was so frustrated. I was sitting at the airport because I had been doing, all the right things and building my business. And I just was working on getting to this next rank, and it just was not coming together. And I was frustrated and I was disappointed. And it kind of just hit me in a moment. And one of the things that I really realized in that moment is that and I want everyone to kind of picture this, is you have your ultimate goal, whatever that goal is, right? For some people, it might be a rank, it might be a certain income level, it might be your business hits a certain revenue goal, whatever that is, or even on a personal level, you have that goal. And we're working towards it. And it's almost like as if we're a miner and we're digging for that ultimate treasure and we're working towards it. And what I found I was doing is I was so focused on that ultimate treasure, that rank at that point in time, that I would imagine a miner, right? They're digging for that treasure. They find another gem, but they don't even pick it up. They're just like, nope, I'm only going for that one big treasure. And they just leave all these gems along the way. And that's essentially what I was doing with my business. I was so focused on this rank that I was essentially not picking up the other gems. And so one of the things that I did right there at the airport, I pulled out my phone, and this is such a powerful exercise, so I want to encourage people to do it, is take some time, and I call it your gratitude's gems list, and break down and start writing all the things that have happened since you became an entrepreneur and you said yes to your business. And what I realized by doing that is it was like the people that I met. Like, I have friends all around the world who anytime I'm in a town, I could call someone and, have lunch and connect with them. The people, the mentors that I've met because of being part of such an incredible profession, the experiences, right? Like, so taking that moment, and then yes, the income as well, of course, too, and what that's allowed me to do. And so when I did that exercise, it really reframed the whole situation for me, and realized that there were so many other incredible things to enjoy while I'm still working towards that ultimate goal. And I did, and I hit that. However, it helped me in that moment to really keep pushing through, because there were so many other things that I could be grateful for, that because I was building this business.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a really great piece of wisdom that someone said to me a few years ago. And he was referring to running. We had a guest on this podcast called Oscar Trimboli, and he's a deep listening expert. And he often talks about, he references things back to his days as a running coach. And
Mm,
he used to say, to his runners, when you're looking ahead, it's great to look ahead. And that's what most people do. They're looking at the road ahead and they're paying attention to where they're going. But he said every now and again, if you're running a marathon, you need to turn around and see how far you've come. Because if you don't do that, the road ahead eventually can, you're thinking about how much further, how much further, how much further. But when you turn around and go, okay, I've got another 11 kilometers to go, but I've come 10, that gives you a little bit of fuel to keep pushing and a bit of gratitude for the distance that you've covered so far.
absolutely.
And I love that concept of just those little gems along the way. I mean, how often are we so laser focused on what we don't have, we forget about what we do have? Super, super
Absolutely.
powerful.
And I love that runner analogy too, because in
Yeah,
some ways I was just thinking about it. It's almost like, yeah, you're focused on where you're headed. You're missing out on all the beautiful scenery as you're running,
absolutely.
right? So it's
Yeah,
important to look back and go, I've come this far. And
yeah.
wow, look around and everything that you have because you started this journey.
Yeah. Well, I actually now physically, when I'm running and I'm training again for a half marathon, so when I run now, I can get quite bored, to be perfectly honest. I mean, sometimes like doing 14, 15 kilometers, it
Mm.
gets a bit monotonous. But I actually physically now turn around and look back and I, do a little bit of gentle running backwards just so I can practice that exercise. And it reminds me in life to do it as well.
Mhm.
And you've just reminded me of that now. It's really good sometimes, even when we get in those crazy moments where it all feels overwhelming and there's a lot going on, to stop and go, hang on a minute. How did I even get here to where I am? What are the blessings I've had along the way? And although I may not be where I necessarily have got my eyes to go yet, what have I gained? And, there's always so much to be grateful for. But I think we're not naturally attuned typically to pay attention to those things. So it's a really great piece of advice. I do want to ask you a little bit about the flip side of this, though. We talked about the business side. I've never quit on a bad day. You talked about showing up as well. I, like you, I'm really passionate about the ripple effect that we can have on people when we show up as ourselves, and where we show up with the right attitude or a smile on our face even when we feel flat. Do you want to speak into that for a little bit and sort of where that concept came from? It sounds like a development along the way of your journey with never quit on a bad day.
Yeah, it really hit me, I think, in the last couple years because of everything I've gone through. And, I had I lost my dad 13 years ago, and that was a very, very challenging situation. And in this last season, one of the things that I realized in that moment with my dad passing is just how I was so it was a really rough time. I'll
Mm,
say that. That being said, one of the things I realize now is I still had a choice in terms of how I would show up when I would be out. Now, I'm not saying that, many people around me at my boot camp, they knew what was going on. So I'm not saying you show up with just a smile all the time and everything's great and not being your true authentic self. What I
yeah,
am saying though, is we still have a choice of how we present ourselves and how we, even on those days when we're tired, we're frustrated, we're sitting here being like, why? Finding something to hold on to. And I'm really, again, you guys will hear this over, like so big in gratitude, because that is what was able to keep me going in a lot of ways, is finding one little
yeah,
thing to hold on to be grateful for. Hold on to that so you can genuinely show up with a smile. Even though it's tough, it doesn't minimize what you're going through. It doesn't minimize everything that I was experiencing. However, I could show up with a smile because I was holding on to the fact, like, I have my mom. Like, I have my
yeah,
mom. It's a challenging season, but I have my mom. Now I show up with a smile in a different way where, there are still days where I don't want to get out of bed. I'm sad. I miss my mom like so much. And I have to pause and refocus and go, well, you know what? I had my mom for 80, well, not 85. I'm not 85. My mom lived for 85 years, and we
mm,
had a beautiful relationship. And she taught
yeah,
me so many lessons that are part of the reason I am who I am. And that gives me a reason to smile and then take a step forward and get out of bed and show up as who I am genuinely to
yeah,
my core, and still being authentic and being true to who I am, right? And saying, okay, today I'm going to show up with a smile. Or sometimes it's even just that moment, right? It's that moment moment of choosing that and moving forward. And then from there, you find other things to smile about and to just be grateful for. Because at the end of the day, we have choices. It's up to
Yeah.
us. We get to choose. And I have this quote in the book that I talk about, like, we all have choices. And I truly believe champions are made in the choices that we make every single day. We have choices that we can choose to either show up or not. And we have to live with those choices.
Yeah. So powerful. I often have to repeat to myself and, our members as well, that we can't control what the world dishes out to us, right? We don't get to choose what people say to us, how they treat us, the circumstances that we're faced with. But the one thing we do get a choice on is how we respond to those things. And I love what you said, that it doesn't minimize what you're going through, but it can change the outcome of that situation or impact somebody else that needed to be impacted in some way, shape, or form. When we continue to show up. And yeah, again, that can be really tough, but it's also a sign of character to be able to step up and go, you know what? I'm still going to have a smile on my face right now and remember that one thing that I can be grateful for in this moment, or like you said, hold on to. I think that's super powerful. You mentioned the quitting earlier, and so I want to just talk about that. How do we tell the difference between I need to pause, I need to change my attitude or my response, like I need to do a bit of a self-assessment here, or I need to quit, maybe I need to give up, or I need to push and persevere with this? What tips can you give someone to know what action should I be taking right now? Like, when is it time for me to just literally stay in bed, quit my job, not do this thing anymore, or push and give it a bit more?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I'm going to share from personal experience, and I believe
Yeah.
it is such a personal experience for every single person. One of the things, number one, I remember hearing this, I think it was John Maxwell, who said, like, it's not about quitting, it's transitioning. And so I just embrace that wholeheartedly. It's about transitioning forward into something else. So there are a few things that I use, and I do talk a little bit about when I decided to retire from playing professional soccer, why I decided to do it. And so one of the things, number one, depending when it's time to kind of move forward or transition into something else. Number one, it can be like, does it align with what you see for your future self? And what I mean by that is, when I decided to retire from professional soccer, it wasn't that I had after a bad game, or, it was really on a high, if you will, like a coming off a great season. And so I decided, though, it was time to transition, because I started as an entrepreneur and I really wanted to focus on my business and moving forward in that way. And I knew I wasn't going to stop playing soccer. I was still going to play. I still play right now. I just realized that at that level, it was time to kind of transition and focus on this next phase of my life. Plus, I had missed a lot of family events, playing and, road trips and things like that. And I realized I wanted to have that time for my friends and family in that season. And so I made that decision on a good day, if you will. Another thing to think about is, if you, in some ways, if you started, let's say in business, if you started a business, if it no longer aligns with your values, like, that might be time where you have to revisit it and see, does it still make sense to continue on your entrepreneur journey, maybe with that company or in that particular business. Maybe it's time to transition into something else, because again, you want something that aligns with your values and your beliefs.
Absolutely.
And if that shifts, that might be time to look at it in a different way. Another thing I share is, if you're not growing or learning, right? I remember when I was working a full-time job, and I was so frustrated because I wasn't learning anything. I wasn't growing. I had to find other ways to continue to do that. And so that might be something for someone to look at, is like, are you continuing to learn and grow in your current situation? And if not, it might be time. Another one I would say is, look at your goals. Like, did you accomplish what you set out to do, right? So if you had certain goals and milestones you wanted to hit in your business and you've hit them, maybe it's time again to kind of reevaluate. And the last one that I'll share, which is one of the ones that touches back on, is it pausing? Is it pivoting? Is if something's causing significant emotional distress, if you will, then it might be time to shift, right? And when I
Yep.
say that, is that something, again, very personal, and it's important to evaluate, is it just your comfort zone and you're like, well, I'm kind of scared or I'm angry or something like that, or is it actually creating emotional distress? And if it is, or physical,
Yeah.
then that's the time where you really want to evaluate that and see if it is time to transition into something else.
Yeah, awesome. That's really great advice. And so, I want to talk a little bit about confidence for a little moment because, in a lot of what you're talking about does take some courage to do the things that you're talking about doing. But it's interesting because I'll often hear people say things like, oh, I'm not a very confident person. And, the thing about confidence is, in my experience, it's not something that you have from birth, it's something that you build. And so, first of all, do you agree with that? And second of all, if you do, what helped you to build yours, and what advice would you give to others to help them do the same?
Absolutely. I believe in it. I'm in alignment with you on that one. I do believe that confidence is something that we can build. One of the ways that I've built confidence is little wins, like little wins
Mhm.
throughout the day, and staying true to your word. So what I mean by that is, if you say you're going to do something, or I'll personalize it, if I say I'm going to do something, following through on that,
Yeah.
that for me helps build confidence. And I think one of the biggest things is confidence comes from doing. It is like doing the things, doing hard things and pushing through them. And, I'll compare it to the gym. We've talked about that a lot. Is like, okay, confidence, as let's compare it to building a physical muscle. The way
Yep.
we build muscle in the gym is through resistance, right? There's a heavy
Yep.
weight on there. If we go in and we're lifting, a weight that's way too light for us, we're not going to build that muscle that we're looking to grow. And so and obviously nutrition, but we'll keep that aside for right now. But let's just focus on the actual action.
Yeah.
It's like, it comes from lifting heavy weights, right? We push
Yeah.
ourselves, and for every person, what that weight's going to be is going to be different depending on your strength that you're starting with, depending on where you want to go.
Mm.
So everyone's going to have a different level of what that, resistance is going to be to help build that confidence. At the end of the day, though, it comes from lifting the weight. It comes from doing the hard thing, and whatever that
Yeah.
hard thing is for each person. And so
Yeah.
the way I encourage people to build confidence is do something. So like,
Yeah.
as we're talking right now, I'm sure people are like, oh, I don't want to do that thing. Something popped up, right? I'm
Just
sure
something popped into your mind just
for
then. Yeah.
everybody, even me, I just thought of it as I'm talking. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that thing, right? And so that's how you build confidence. And I want to
Yeah.
encourage people, you're listening, you're hearing, and that thing popped in your mind that you don't want to do. Well, guess what? Do that thing today
Yeah.
when you're hearing
Yeah.
it, and do it when you continue to do those little things that you don't necessarily want to do, or that you're
Yeah.
resisting. That's where you're going to continue to build your confidence. And that's where you
Yeah.
build that confidence muscle.
You remind me of watching my daughter. I've got an 18-month-old, and I watched her 6 months ago learn to walk. And it's really funny because when a child learns to walk, they don't go, oh, give this a go once and see what happens, and get up and fall over and go, well, that's the end of that. I'm clearly not going to be a walker for the rest of my life. They get up again, they have another go, they fall over about 100 times. But the day that they figure out, you know what, I can do this, and they get that confidence to keep stepping, and they figure their balance out. They don't ever go, oh, but I actually prefer crawling, or this stays hard forever. It gets easier and easier and easier and easier every time they give it a go. And then suddenly she's not thinking about how hard walking is anymore. It just happens. Now she's thinking about, how do I jump, or how do I run? She's looking at the next thing. And I think you sort of made me think of that, because I think a lot of people in business, and all of us, it doesn't matter if you're in a direct selling business, if you're an entrepreneur and you started something from scratch, if you're an author, if you're a speaker, if you're whatever you're doing, every step along the way, there's going to be something that's going to push you and challenge you, but it won't challenge you forever, right? It's when you keep, I love that concept of lifting the weight. It's when you keep lifting the weight that the resistance eventually becomes a little easier, and then you add a bit more weight. And so, I remember a day when, doing my accounting was super hard, like figuring out what all of this meant. Now I'm like, I've learned that. That's easy. Now we move on to the next thing. So I think it's a really good thing to remember is it might be hard today, but eventually lifting that 10 kilo weight is going to get a lot easier. And you won't be thinking about how hard lifting the 10-kilo weight is anymore because you'll be focused on the 20-kilo weight or whatever it is that you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just continuing to do those little things over and over
Yeah.
again. And but also taking a moment to be like, I did that. Because that's how
Yeah.
you also build
Celebrate.
confidence, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate that you did
Mm.
that you moved through it, that you went to the next level. And so giving yourself that grace to fall over, as you said, with your toddler over and over again, that's part of it, right? It's part of
Yeah.
it is knowing that there are going to be those falls, get back up, keep going, but
Yeah.
celebrate the fact that, hey, you took the first step in the first place, like actually taking a moment to celebrate yourself for doing that. The other thing I always encourage people to when you're building confidence is borrow confidence. And what I mean by that is, again, if you're in the direct selling industry, you can borrow confidence from, whether it's your upline or someone
I
else in
love
the
that.
business. You
Mm.
can borrow confidence from past wins. Like sit back and take a moment and go, okay, well, I've created success over here, whatever that over here looks like, and borrow that confidence over into what you're doing that's new. Realizing that you've done hard things before. Maybe it was in a completely different chapter of your life, but you've done hard things before, which means you can do hard things again. You
Yeah.
can keep doing it.
Yeah, so good. I love that, Phoebe. And you mentioned before as well, you were talking about when I asked you what we'd find you doing if you were unplugged, and you made mention that you would still stick to your routine. I want to talk about routines because I'm a really big fan of routine. And rituals and things that keep us grounded and more importantly fill our cup. But what are some of the routines or rituals that you personally use to keep you grounded on hard days?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I shared, starting my day with prayer and gratitude, absolutely. And throughout the day. So I said
Yeah.
I would start with it because I would, and then I'd let the adventure flow. However, there's going to be moments throughout the day. Like I am so hardwired now. And I think a big part of it is because it has been such a challenging season that
Yeah.
I just grab onto every little thing, making that cup of coffee, getting an unexpected phone call from a friend, being able to work out like this morning, even being in boot camp. And it's a hard, this class is hard, but I absolutely love it because every single time I know I'm going there, I'm going to be challenged again, building
Yeah.
that confidence.
And it's hot for you guys right now, isn't it? You're
It
you're in
is.
your summer. Yeah.
Yes, it is nice outside. So it's like going and showing up. And so doing
Yeah.
those things is also how I build that confidence. And
Yeah.
throughout the day, just taking moments to pray, to be grateful, to just hold on. Because, even this morning, it was like in the midst of a hard workout, being like, I'm grateful I can move my body this way.
Yeah.
And just I'm dealing with a hip issue. And today it didn't hurt. And it was like, oh, I'm just grateful to work out without pain. So
I love
little
that.
things
Yeah.
like that. So that's
Yeah.
definitely a huge ritual. Health and fitness is very high on my list in terms of my values. And so
Yeah.
making sure in terms of rituals is like, filling my body with good foods and water and staying
Yeah.
hydrated and nutritious and moving my body. Those things are all like things that throughout the day are very important to me as
Yeah.
well. And then
Yeah.
just generally, finding things to be grateful for. My day flex as an entrepreneur, one day I might be doing a training or speaking. The next day I'm doing more preparation. So my days are very varied in that way, which I like. I like kind of to have that flexibility to kind of schedule accordingly. But those would be some of the big things that, are consistent throughout the day. And then just making
Yeah.
sure that I'm staying connected to friends and family, different friends, different family on the days, but also
Yeah.
just really, because that is another core value of mine is just having time and reaching out in kindness and love to my friends and family and letting them know just how grateful I am for them. So that's
Mm.
something as well that, every single day I'm doing that. And then some sort of personal development, podcasts, YouTubes, reading, whatever it is, conferences. I'm always looking to make sure I'm investing in myself and continuing to grow
Mm.
myself as well. So those are some things
Yeah.
that consistently
Yeah.
happen.
Awesome. You talk a lot about nutrition. I just want to touch on that for a second because I think sometimes we forget that it's not just mindset that impacts the emotional. I mean, this is a lot about the emotional roller coaster we go through, right? And sometimes showing up as the best version of ourselves and, having that smile on our face when we wake up in the morning can be impacted not just by where our headspace is at or what's being dished at us from the world around us, but also what we do with our bodies, because there's a lot of impact I think we just don't take into account. And certainly I've become much more aware of this over the last 10 years. And every day I feel like I'm a student of my own body in a sense in learning about what I put in and the result I get out. But can we talk about, I mean, we all know that exercise and moving our body is really important for endorphins and hormones and all of the things. So it's going to impact how you feel. But what about the things we put in? What would you say are probably your 3 top tips for fueling your body to show up as the best version of yourself in hard circumstances?
Absolutely. So, I mean, hydration, right? Water, drinking lots of water. I think many of us don't drink enough water. We think we are because we have water in a cup of coffee, or we have water in some juice, or we have water in
If I
some,
counted that, I would absolutely be
right? Oh,
hydrated.
there was an ice cube in my drink. So doesn't that
Yeah,
count?
yeah.
Like, we find creative ways to like make sure we're
Wine
doing
is
it.
a liquid, right?
Exactly. Like there's water there somewhere, right? So we
Yeah.
find those ways, but also just actually drinking water as it is, straight up. Some people like to put lemon or cucumber, whatever it is, but really just staying hydrated is
Yeah.
so important for so many different reasons in our bodies. So that would be number one. And that's something, again, super simple. You talked about controlling what we can control. And so I like to control the controllables, right? You
Yeah.
can control your water intake. I'll let people know in the beginning, when you increase your water intake, you will run to the bathroom a lot more. That's okay. Just plan accordingly, right? So staying hydrated would be first and foremost. Absolutely. Just eating whole foods as much as you can, right? Is, reducing the amount of processed foods, right? And just being, so whole foods as much as you can. And the easiest way to like sum everything up, just be intentional, right? Being intentional with your food. We all know what is good food and what's not so great to feel. Now, that being said, I definitely enjoy eating out from time to time too. So I would say it's like everything in moderation, right? And you'll know, as you said, you're seeing how your body responds to things. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just giving your body will let you know, when you feel good. And sometimes when you eat certain things, you may not feel as great. So, whether you're going to eliminate those completely is a personal choice, or just reduce them, right? And go from there. So I think the key thing is just being intentional and taking care of your body, and doing, again, some of the hard things now, so that later in life, you don't have, the impact that you could have.
Yeah. And I like to think about it, I love what you said. I think there's a lot of balance here, right? And we're never going to get a balance right, but balance is still something to strive for. And when it comes to taking care of ourselves, I know, I've interviewed people on this podcast who are like, there's like, no, you only do the things that are the right things to do for your body. There's no question. You don't, there's no balance here. It's like it's either right or wrong or good or bad, and that's the end of it. But I think that there is an element as well of, like, it's life, and we want to be able to enjoy some things, even if we know that maybe I'm not going to feel so great after I eat this or go out and have this meal, but I'm going to enjoy it, and then I'm going to pay the price later. And and that's just what it is. I might have to do some extra workouts or have a few days of eating like super, super well to make up for it. But the one thing that I do constantly have to remind myself of, and I think this is something that you're kind of touching on here, is when I go to have something and I'm putting it into my body, asking myself the question, is this fueling me?
Mm-hmm.
And really that's what food is, and water is, or liquid of any sort is it's supposed to be put in to fuel you. And so, asking yourself the question, will this fuel me or not? And sometimes when we put, the petrol into the diesel tank, the car's going to go kaput, right? So, we've done this recently. You don't get very far. So it is, I think, a really good point there, that it's nice to have the balance, but also just be conscious about it. Don't accidentally do it intentionally.
Yeah, and I love what you said. There are some people who they're going to be very like they're only going to put in foods that are going to fuel them at all times. And that aligns for them. And that's totally okay for them. I think, and I love what you said, like for each person, we have to figure out, well, what's going to help us like be at our best self. Like I was just with my nieces over the weekend, and we made this like dessert treat, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was the experience of making it with them. I love to bake. And then it was, we're putting our ice cream on it. Now, was it within my usual, what I normally eat plan? No, it wasn't. However, it was such a great moment that I wanted to enjoy it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want listeners to really understand what we're talking about here in terms of nutrition. It's moderation. It's what works best for you. It's what's going to help your body, and also being intentional with it and enjoying life's moments as well, too.
Yeah, awesome. Phoebe, we get a lot of leaders listening into this podcast as well, people who know that they're not just showing up for themselves and their customers, but they've also got team that they're showing up for. And whether it's one people or 100 people or 1,000 people, what advice would you give? Because you've been in that same position. You've come from being a leader in the direct selling industry, so you know what it's like to lead people, even when things get tough. And so, what advice would you give to leaders who want to inspire others to keep going, but honestly, they feel like maybe I'm actually feeling a bit stuck in myself right now? How do I lead other people? Um, and this is a thing, leaders struggle too. So, what would you say to someone who is leading others and maybe feels a bit like, hey, how do I show up because I'm feeling stuck?
Well, number one, I've been there many times. So I'll just speak from what I would do a lot. One is making sure that you're getting your tank filled up, whatever that
Yeah.
means for that leader, right? So as I said, like I'm big in personal development, leadership development. So I attended conferences, listening to other network marketing leaders to continue to learn
Yeah.
and to have those relationships with other network marketing leaders that I can talk to say, hey, here's how I'm feeling. One of the things too, I'm really big on language, what we say. And so even in just saying the word, I feel stuck, how can we change that? Well, I'm in a pause season, or I'm feeling like I'm in a pause, or just something that will empower you a little bit more. Because sometimes when we hear the word stuck, it's like, well, how do I get out of, this quicksand? And we know if
Mm,
you're in quicksand and you move, well, you're just going to keep going down further, right? So
yeah.
it's figuring out language, number one, like, are you really stuck, or is it just not moving the way you want it to move? And is it time to kind of go back to your gratitudes list and revisit that?
Yeah.
Find those other wins to celebrate. So, number one, I would say plug into other network marketing leaders to really, get your tank full, because you want to operate a full tank. Reframing that language in terms of maybe you're not stuck, maybe you're just in a pause, or maybe it's time to look at something a little bit differently. Maybe it's going through your gratitudes gems list to kind of, again, shift your perspective. Because what I found too is when I would do that exercise or reread my gratitude gems list and add to it, that change in perspective was just what I needed to kind of get fueled again to move forward. And the other biggest thing is action. Sometimes it just comes down to, as a leader, taking massive action, whatever that means, like for that particular person,
Yeah.
revisiting it and getting back to work, getting into activity. I remember there was a quote I heard years ago, doubt will take you out of action. Action will take you out of doubt. And so sometimes it's that activity that you need to just get back
Yeah.
into it, which will help you as well. And it really does come from, if you want to inspire and lead others, it starts with ourselves first. So
Yeah.
it's
So
getting
good.
into action in terms of what we can do as leaders for ourselves. And
Yeah.
that will naturally ripple out to our teams.
Yeah. So good. Such great advice. And last but not least, before we get into my favorite 4 questions that I ask all of our guests, I want to know if our listeners today could walk away with just one shift from this episode. What would you hope that shift would be?
I'd hope that they would walk away finding ways to be more grateful in their life
Mm-hmm.
and being intentional with that. One of the things
Yep.
I did very early on is I actually put a reminder in my phone. I still have it to this day at 9:10 p.m. Pacific every single day. It pops up and it just says, I'm so happy and grateful that dot, dot, dot.
Oh,
And
I
I
love
did that.
that.
Yeah, I did that years and years ago because I wanted to be intentional with it. Because again, I was telling you, like I was stuck, I was frustrated, going through all those emotions. And so by doing that, it forced me to be intentional. Sometimes I'd be at home and I picked that time because usually I was, done my day activities and stuff, and I'd be kind of in a quiet space. And so I could take that time. Sometimes it would be, 10 minutes. Sometimes if I'm driving and I pops up and I hear it, I'm driving. It's just a 1 minute, what I'm grateful for in that moment. However,
Mm-hmm.
I want to encourage people is be intentional with your gratitude. The more
Yep.
grateful you are, the more you find things to be grateful for, the more things you'll have to be grateful. So that would be my hope and goal, is that everyone, if they do not have a gratitude practice, to really be intentional with it. And that's a simple way they can do it.
Yeah, awesome. I love that so much. What a great way of doing that too, setting a little alarm reminder. So good. So 4 quick questions for you, rapid fire. What is your favorite book for us to add to our accelerator book list?
Oldie but goodie, How to Win Friends and Influence People by
Oh,
Gail
yes.
Carnegie.
So good. So good. And if you could have a superpower, any superpower, what could it be? What would it be and why?
It would be positive mind control, positive and kind mind control. So the reason mind control is because I would love to be able to help people either one, become more positive, myself as
Yeah.
well, because we're
Yeah.
human, we go through moments.
Yeah.
And then two, kindness, right? Like if you could
Yeah.
mind control people to be positive and kind, just think of what the world would look like. It'd be
Wow. Yeah,
amazing.
that's a really cool one. I've not had that one come up. I've had some very interesting superpowers come to the table, but I love that one. So good. Positive, positive and kind mind control. Nice. And what's your favorite quote?
It's by Neil Donald Walsh, and it's life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Yes. So good. And last but not least, if you could go back in time and say one thing to your past self, Phebe, what would that be?
I would say ask way more questions. And what I mean by that is in multiple ways. I have incredible family and family circle. And we've, as you get older, we've had loved ones who have passed and we got together a lot. I would just have been more intentional about asking one family member every single time I got to see them, like some question, whatever that is, because there's so much wisdom we can learn.
Absolutely. That's really powerful. And there is, isn't it? It's actually one of the things that's been a little, a bucket list item for me that I've wanted to do is actually go and volunteer at some aged care facilities because I really I feel like there's lost wisdom in our elderly, the people who have gone before us that are responsible for why we get to live the lives that we get to live. But they're sitting, so many of them are sitting there without family, without friends. A lot of the people around them have now passed. And, I've seen this with my grandparents and I noticed that, they become very lonely at the end of their life and almost forgotten about in so many ways. But they carry all of this gold with them, this incredible knowledge and wisdom that I think we really discount. So I was thinking, it'd be so cool to be able to go in and spend some time and just ask questions, get to know them, hear about their life and the things that they experienced and learned and ask myself, how could I learn from that too? So
Absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. Ask questions and listen to learn. I think that's the important thing, what you just said, right? We're asking, but also are we going to listen to learn from them? I think that would be what I would tell younger Phoebe.
So powerful. Now, Phoebe, very importantly, if anyone wants to learn more about your amazing books, they want to know where they can get hold of them from, how can we steer them in the right direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the title, Never Quit on a Bad Day. So the book's available on major online retailers. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, et cetera, et cetera. My website to come hang out and visit is neverquitonabadday.com. And when you go there, you actually get a free chapter from the book. And I chose this chapter to give away because it's all about belief and it's all about language. And I just think that it applies to everything that we do in life, our belief and our language. And so they can head over there to get a free chapter from the book. And then I'm also available on social media, Never Quit on a Bad Day.
Nice. So we'll put all those links in the show notes so people can grab those really quickly and easily as well. But please go check out Phoebe's book. I am super excited. We're actually heading over to the US tomorrow, so I'm going to be meeting you in person. So probably by the time this podcast comes out, there might even be some photos of us hanging out together, which will be fun. And I will be getting my own copy of that book while I'm traveling. So I can't wait for that. But guys, thanks again for tuning in. Phoebe, thank you so much for your time. It's been such an honor and a privilege to meet and connect with you and hear all of your incredible wisdom. So thank you for sharing today.
Well, thank you for having me, Sam. I appreciate what you're doing with the podcast and just helping to educate, inspire, and mentor people. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be on. And so thank you.
Yeah, awesome. And of course, thanks to our beautiful listeners again for tuning in. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if this episode has spoken to you, share it with a friend. Let's spread the message and help impact other people today as well. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Phoebe. So great. We will see you all again on the podcast next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.